So this is free thinking. And I'm wondering something. I'm wondering why it is that men seem to hold themselves in quite low regard. Men seem to put themselves last when considering any importance as human beings. And the specific case I'm thinking of now is Wimbledon tennis, where men play more tennis but get equal prize money with the female players. And the reason the prize money is equal at the moment is that in the past men used to be paid more than women. Women complained about this and demanded equality. And this is despite the fact that women played less tennis than men. Despite that fact, women managed to achieve equality in prize money. And the men didn't complain about the simple fact that they were playing more tennis for their reward. And it does surprise me that men accept this. It's as if the male players don't value themselves particularly highly. The male players are willing to accept being paid essentially less than the female players for no reason whatsoever. So the female players demanded equal pay, despite the fact they were not doing equal work, and they succeeded. And it seems to me that the reason they succeeded is that men simply don't regard themselves very highly. Men are happy to work harder for the same reward if they're asked to do so, or if they're required to do so. There is low self-regard within men, and it's very surprising. It would seem that men are perfectly willing to put themselves last, even in something important like their careers and their hard work. It doesn't seem to matter to men. I'm very surprised by this because men throughout history have sacrificed their lives to protect nations and ideologies, to protect their families. Men would risk much, work extremely hard to protect others and keep others safe. So men do seem to regard themselves as tools, as entities to help others. Men do seem to put themselves last. I suppose this can be seen in a whole range of things, like the work that men do, the risks that men take. If you look at mortality statistics in all areas, men suffer more, men pay a higher price. It's very surprising how this situation is in place. It's as if that fundamentally men don't value themselves. I'm not sure if it's as simple as that, but it does seem to possibly come down to that. So I think I mentioned before, we have the expressions ladies before gentlemen and women and children to the lifeboats first. There seems to be this automatic presumption that women matter more, they're more significant, more valuable, and men seem to be perfectly content to put themselves last, even at cost of their lives. I'm wondering at this, and I do have a lot more thinking to do. I'm wondering if it serves a purpose for men to regard themselves as unimportant. Is it important for humanity to survive properly for men to view themselves as unimportant? Mortality statistics for men in war and in general life seem to suggest that men don't take care of themselves as much. They take on riskier jobs, they do harder work, they put themselves in the front lines in the military. I suppose I'm wondering, is it the case that men simply regard themselves as being less important than women? Or is it actually true that men are less important than women? I don't know if there's any way of answering that question. I'm wondering, as technology changes and the world changes around us, will that lead to a change in the mentality of men, in how men see themselves? If life becomes easier, basically, and women don't need to depend on men so much, men don't need to be the shoulder to lean on, basically. They don't need to be so much as direct providers. As society matures and civilization grows in complexity and capacity, the direct need for men and their labour becomes less. So it is possible that men will begin to value themselves more and not see themselves as just a utility. I'm wondering if there's any evidence to support the idea that men might be learning to value themselves more highly. I don't believe I've seen any evidence to this, but it does seem that society is changing around us. And the direct need for men to be the direct provider and the need for men to take more risks, that basically the need for men to be expendable is reducing all the time. So I'm wondering if men will begin to see themselves as more important over time, and will men begin to see themselves as being of equal value to women? Because I think in history, throughout all of history, and it's hard to say how much is true in the present day, men have definitely put themselves last in order of importance. I can't say if that is changing or has changed. I can't say that I've looked for the evidence of this change. I'm just not aware of change. I'm not even sure how to look for this evidence. But when I think of my children, for instance, I have a son and a daughter. I do want my son to value himself as much as my daughter values herself. But somehow there does seem to be a tendency for men to put their own safety and well-being last in order of importance. I don't know if this is just biological or socio-cultural. I do know I want my son to value himself and see himself as important, and not to see himself as an expendable tool.